Gary Gensler became the subject of criticism from Gensler and Jim Cramer due to his inability to prevail in the SEC Ripple case. NBC, which is part of the national television network, broadcast the panel discussion. In the past, Gensler had boasted about the success of the Securities and Exchange Commission in cases involving cryptocurrency. On the other hand, the judges have reprimanded them since they have gone above what was expected of them, in certain situations, like as the dispute. With Grayscale and the lawsuit with Coinbase, the panel took into consideration the likelihood that the Securities and Exchange Commission would emerge victorious. According to a headline that was published in the Daily Hodl, it is more likely that future developments and regulations regarding cryptocurrencies will take place after the elections in the year 2024. Gensler has expressed his dislike of cryptocurrency exchange platforms, stating that these businesses do not give investors with the required information that is mandated by the law and may even be trading against consumers. Gensler had previously expressed his criticism of these platforms. One of the arguments that he presented was that tokens are not securities, and that in order for investors to make informed decisions about their investments, there must be specific disclosures. In accordance with the rationale presented by Gensler, these tokens do not fulfill the requirements of the O-test, which is a fundamental concept in the realm of securities markets. Regarding the cryptocurrency markets, he asserted that the commission was founded by President Roosevelt in order to check investor transparency, yet they are not offering a transparent environment for investors. As an additional point of interest, exchanges like the floor of the New York Stock Exchanges are subject to stringent regulations in order to avoid fraudulent activity and manipulation, and they do not engage in trading that is against their customers. Gensler's sweeping accusations of trading against customers are dishonest because the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) granted approval for Coinbase's initial public offering IPO a few years ago and subsequently sued the company for its folly. Because of this dishonest attitude, the SEC has not been effective in getting anyone to fall for their techniques, and the court is expressly calling them out for that. In this particular case, they have not been successful in getting anyone to fall for their strategies. In conclusion, the comments that Gensler made about Bitcoin exchange platforms and the fact that they did not provide sufficient disclosures reflect a pattern that has given rise to cause for concern. According to him, the Securities and Exchange Commission's inability to provide sufficient disclosures and to participate in trade against customers is a significant issue, and he believes that the panel's broad claims of engaging in trade against customers are dishonest. He also believes that the panel's accusations are not truthful. On the other hand, the failure of the Securities and Exchange Commission to provide sufficient disclosures and to trade against clients is a concerning trend that has to be addressed in order to maintain the safety and integrity of the cryptocurrency market. Jim Cramer and Gary Gensler were both members of a panel that discussed the role that the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) played in the Ripple Labs case. This session was held within the context of the Ripple lawsuit. Cramer became agitated as a result of Gin's comments, and in response, he spewed forth a quote that he found to be insulting. After that, he shifted his focus to another member of the panel. Dave Gensler, who had also been outraged by the words that Jens had made, expressed his discontent with Jens' actions, and Cramer questioned the rationale of the severe criticism that was directed toward him on the National Broadcast Live broadcast. Gensler had also been offended by Jens' comments. Furthermore, he stated that if he were Gensler, he would not want to disclose it under any circumstances. This was in addition to the previous statement. The conduct of Gensler, on the other hand, made him feel as though he was discriminated against. It has been slow going for the Securities and Exchange Commission in the case of exchange-traded funds, just as it has been slow-moving in its efforts to regulate private fund advisors. The new chairman of the SEC has been slow-moving. The reason for this is that the Securities and Exchange Commission not only does not break any laws pertaining to securities, but it also does not engage in activities that Congress has not given it the right to carry out. Within the Bitcoin industry, there are a number of persons who are considered to be insiders, and these individuals have expressed their concern that the judges do not possess an acceptable level of expertise of cryptocurrencies. A statement made by Gary Gensler, who is a member of the Securities and Exchange Commission, indicates that the subsequent phase of the licensing procedure for exchange-traded funds may take some time. The fact that this is the case may be an indicator that the process of SUN approval will be a slow walk. This match is being drawn out by the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is making everyone's life as miserable as it possibly can be about it. The decision of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals to invalidate the private funds rule of the Securities and Exchange Commission, which the attorney for the SEC believes goes beyond the SEC's legislative jurisdiction to supervise private fund managers, is yet another loss for the attorney for the SEC. Mr. Shurinsky, Jake, regarding the field of cryptography, who is a well-known figure. According to the statement, the administrative state is completely out of control, and the federal judiciary is making an effort to bring it under control. This issue has been the subject of discussion within the realm of cryptography for a considerable amount of time, and the following is what has been uncovered as a consequence of that discussion. A fresh blow for the Securities and Exchange Commission comes in the form of attorney James Murphy, better known as Metal Lawman, who has indicated that Congress needs to freeze financing for the SEC until it has demonstrated that it can be trusted to adhere to the law. This is a further setback for the SEC. Based on the findings of Judge Sarah of the Securities and Exchange Commission, it has been determined that the SEC does not have a faithful devotion to the law, which is a consequence that is extremely unlikely to occur. It can be concluded that the Securities and Exchange Commission has not been making any progress in its efforts to regulate private fund advisors, and that it has been unsuccessful in a number of cases that include Ripple. The activities of the Securities and Exchange Commission have been the target of criticism from members of the community that is concerned with cryptocurrencies. Nevertheless, recent judicial decisions have shown that the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) does not conduct all of its activities in a friendly manner. The SEC is moving toward a regulatory environment that is more accountable and transparent toward its operations. As a result of worries surrounding Kim Jong-un's leadership within the organization, the Securities and Exchange Commission has been experiencing a surge in the number of resignations. As a consequence of this, the SALT Lake City office of the Securities and Exchange Commission, which gained notoriety for its unsuccessful fraud prosecution against deadbucks, has undergone a significant amount of employee turnover. After a federal judge sanctioned them for committing a gross abuse of authority in their attempt to freeze the assets of deadbucks, Michael Welsh and Joseph Watkins, both attorneys with the Securities and Exchange Commission, resigned in April. The judge's decision was caused by the fact that they had attempted to freeze deadbucks' assets. Bitcoin Corporation with headquarters in Utah, due to the fact that they could be deceiving. Due to the fact that the judge dismissed that lawsuit and ordered the Securities and Exchange Commission to pay $1.8 million in attorney bills, there is a clear sign that taxpayers are footing the bill for this situation. In light of the fact that the presidential election is scheduled to take place in November, Brad Garlinghouse, the chief executive officer of Ripple, is gloomy about the probability of developments in cryptocurrency regulation taking place before then. In spite of the fact that he acknowledges the fact that the government of Vice President Joe Biden has been increasing the amount of rhetoric it uses against Bitcoin, he is of the opinion that important regulatory developments might not take place until the year 2025. Garlinghouse is of the opinion that the administration of Vice President Joe Biden is more concerned with supporting policy changes that are advantageous to the pro-cryptocurrency bloc than it is with protecting investors. On the other hand, he acknowledges that there has not been any actual action that would lead one to conclude that there is some kind of motivation behind all of this. Although they have been speaking against Bitcoin in a more quiet and less disruptive manner, the Biden administration has not done any concrete actions that would lead one to believe that there is any type of support for cryptocurrency. This is despite the fact that they have been advocating against it. It is because they are aware that the polls are tight and that there is not a single voter bloc that is hostile to Bitcoin that they have made the decision to make this modification. They are merely arguing for a policy that is not favorable to those who have cryptocurrency with their possession. Tens of millions of people in the United States have purchased Bitcoin, which includes those individuals. Garlinghouse believes that in order to have legislation implemented